We love it. It's one of the most iconic ocean races in the world.
Everything that you would expect from a legendary race.
There's more 52s on the line than the Super Series in Europe.
I've been dreaming of this since I was 11 years old. That's 61 years.
The Rolex Sydney Hobart Yacht Race, one of the most revered challenges in ocean sailing. It's sailor versus the sea, an examination of physical and mental fortitude. Covering 628 nautical miles off the eastern seaboard and across Bass Strait, the Cruising Yacht Club of Australia's famous race poses formidable questions to those who accept the call. The unpredictability is part of the attraction. No two Rolex Sydney Hobarts are the same. There is something so enthralling about this historic race. Sailors just want to keep coming back, driven by a deep respect of the ocean and Mother Nature and the immense sense of achievement that makes the adversity worthwhile. The charm of the Rolex Sydney Hobart is in the variety of the competing yachts and their crews. 109 boats lined up for the 2022 Rolex Sydney Hobart, ranging from 30 to 100 feet. A true test of teamwork and camaraderie in prospect, regardless of whether the crew numbered 2 or 20 plus. The 77th edition saw the return of a truly international fleet. Boats travelling from Hong Kong, the UK, Germany, Hungary, the United States, New Zealand and New Caledonia. The intrigue and legend of this great race drawing competitors and spectators from near and far. With the fourth largest fleet this century, the start on Sydney Harbour was always going to be captivating viewing, and it certainly delivered plenty of action.
Away and racing in the 2022 Rolex Sydney Hobart. The Great Race South is on. Come on, guys.
Here's Sen, strong chance going across on starboard tack, another at the TP52s. Majority of the fleet on starboard.
I can't, where am I going to go?
Here we're seeing a tangle up here of these maxis.
Princess!
Here comes Law Connect, she's across Whisper. This is close. Wow, Mark Bradford. Wow, terrific job.
Once out of Sydney Heads and heading down the New South Wales coast, it was a downwind drive for the fleet, a building nor'easter raising the prospect of a record-breaking run to Hobart. In the battle for line honours, conditions favoured Andu Comanche, the returning three-time winner and race record holder. With John Winning Jr. at the helm, Andu Comanche put on a high-speed show as the other three 100-foot maxis, Law Connect, Blackjack and Hamilton Island Wild Oats, clung on to stay within reach off the Tasmanian coast. But Andu Comanche would not be denied. even on the softening River Derwent. Just under 3 hours outside her own race record, and a fourth line honours win for the imposing Maxi, this time for a third different skipper.
Didn't feel real till the last minute. I have been here once before, so I had a little bit of an idea what to expect, but to do it, in a campaign that I was part of putting together is really quite exceptional. The boat's awesome. I mean, everything from the design to the feel of it to the records that it holds, the legacy that it will hold. It's, I'm just glad that we can be a part of that, and we didn't shame it, but hopefully we added to its glory.
I didn't expect us to do as well as we did, actually, and I think coming into towards the end, what we were doing is just watching Comanche on the tracker, and anytime they slowed down, we went somewhere else, and that strategy did work. And the crew also did a great job sailing it fast. So we were sort of, getting very close to them. I think we ended up about 3 miles away at the end, so it was really, really good.
This is not a low for us. I mean, we were competitive. I think they beat us by 40 minutes, and Law Connect was 20 minutes in front of us. So we're in the hunt in a race that probably really didn't suit our boat, and so we're pretty proud of that.
Not a great start for us, but we popped on a port tack, as you saw there, and got ourselves on the eastern channel, sort of right up against the spectator line there, and got clean air, and it worked out well for us, so it was good. For whatever reason, the breeze did change the next morning. We were expecting to go right, it went left, big time, and we were deep on the pack trying to get ready for that little right-hander, and it didn't work.
It's just quite incredible, really. It's just a dream come true. We set our expectations on this race as the Everest or the pinnacle of what we can achieve. It's just amazing to be able to do it with my dad, and it's just the icing on the cake of an amazing year.
The notorious Derwent delivered a fascinating spectacle on the morning after the line honours arrival. A strong nor'wester saw the mini maxis and 52-footers arrive battered and bruised. The skill of the steerers on display as they navigated huge gusts on the approach to the finish line.
Well, here's some real drama. The boat in the foreground is Willow, and then there's Stefan racing behind Willow with that torn headsail.
There you see Alive on starboard tack as they look to lay the finishing mark at Castro Esplanade. So Willow, Stefan, then Alive.
4 52-footers arrived in quick succession, leading the battle for the Tattersall Cup, awarded to the overall winner of the Rolex Sydney Hobart on IRC corrected time. First of that pack over the line was the Boaton 52 Caro, registered in New Zealand and the UK with a Swiss owner. Then came American Chris Sheehan's Pack 52 Warrior 1. But with better handicap ratings, the ultimate decisive showdown came down to 2. A match race between Sam Haynes' TP52 Celestial and Matt Donald and Chris Townsend's, in the same vintage, Gualo. After a gripping tacking duel down the river, Celestial kept Gualo within contact to take the provisional overall lead.
The fact that we were within eyeshot of these 3 other 52s, Celestial, Caro, and Gualio, really well-sailed boats for the entire 638 miles. We could see them, they could see us, and at times we were within boat lengths of each other. Really exciting racing.
A bit of monstrous duel with Warrior 1 and Celestial coming up the river, and it actually helped us a little bit. We probably gained a bit of time on Warrior 1, probably wasn't their best mode, and managed to get over the top of them in the end, but we just couldn't get enough on Celestial to get the victory, unfortunately.
The time difference between us and Gualo is really, really small amount of time. Even when we were tacking up the river, we were still racing. Like we had time on them, but we could not afford to make any mistake. It was still a race, a real yacht race.
A changing weather system confronted the bulk of the fleet as they tracked across Bass Strait and down the Tasmanian coast. Strong southerlies and a significant sea state halted the overall handicap challenge of the mid-sized and two-handed competitors. 9 yachts succumbed to the conditions, with boat damage forcing them out of the race. The TP52 Koa was one of 3 boats to lose her rudder, with the Western Australian boat and car geek GP42 Enterprise Next Generation standing by in a dutiful display of sportsmanship. Enterprise Next Generation was accordingly granted redress of 2 hours to finish 7th overall and 1st in Division 2.
Really wrapped with the race. We set out with a pretty clear plan. There was good weather for us. Downwind, that's what the boat really likes.
While the testing conditions ended the hopes of some, practical seamanship and ingenuity ensured many others were able to continue. For the British entrant Sunrise, Tom Neen's JPK 1180, winner of the 2021 Rolex Fastnet race, a divisional victory was secured thanks to some impressive handiwork on board.
Unfortunately, we broke the masthead halyard lock just as it was getting windy. Or it broke. I'm not sure we broke it really. But that meant that we were limited on the sails we could use. And I think that compromised us a bit. And then we probably pushed too hard on Tuesday night. Just to the extent that we broke our boom into, tore our main, put it back together, and then carried on racing. And I think that is just a great example of what this Sunrise project has created. It's an astonishing group of people that can never be beaten.
After a nervy 30-hour wait, Sam Haynes received the news he longed to hear. Celestial, confirmed as the overall winner of the 2022 Rolex Sydney Hobart Yacht Race, just 12 months after the devastation of being relegated from 1st to 2nd due to a rule infringement.
We've been trying a long time to win it. We've come close a couple of times, very, very close last year. So to finally be here, it's just incredible. I really couldn't allow myself to think that we'd won it. It was always, to me, provisional until it was announced, and I got the phone call from the Commodore Arthur Lane, and he said, Celestial's won, and undisputed champion. And at that point, we started opening the champagne. I was so happy, the crew was so happy, the family, you know, all our supporters. We had a lot of us there. It was sheer joy.
Conditions were often brutal for the mid to small sized boats, who always expect to go through multiple weather systems during the Rolex Sydney Hobart. This 77th race was another that will go down in the time-honoured category of a classic Hobart, showing why the sailors who complete this famous race are so admired and respected.
went through the jibe and the boom, it broke in the jibe. So the crew cut up the bunks and sleeved it and wrapped Kevlar tape around it.
Tore main, and the jib was going in the end too, because we were locked out with the main. We couldn't pull a reef in because we were frightened to damage the main anymore.
After the cancellation of the 2020 Rolex Sydney Hobart and international border closures being enforced in 2021, international entrants made a welcome return to the race in 2022.
We all grew up together, sailed on the lake back in Hungary, and now we are exploring the oceans with Cassiopeia.
It's a bit of a discovery as well for us. Can be a bit daunting at times, but finger crossed, touching wood, we are making it at the moment.
Sydney Hobart has some name, some reputation in the world, and since we are kids, we thought about that.
Among them were two Sydney 38s from New Caledonia, Eye Candy and Pulpito. Eye Candy was forced to retire on the third night at sea due to forestay damage, but still made it to Hobart for the post-race celebrations. There was a record number of competitors in the second edition of the two-handed division, with 20 boats starting the race and only one retirement. Regarded by many as the two-handed pre-race favourite, Mistral lived right up to expectation. Rupert Henry and Greg O'Shea steered Henry's Lombard 34 to victory on both IRC and ORCI handicaps, finishing 29th overall. Lee Condell and Lincoln Dews were second in the two-handed division on Sunfast Racing, while Peter Elkington and Scott Kavanagh were third on Packman.
We thought, based on the forecast weather, we were in with a slight chance of taking the race overall, and we just went for it.
Among the many family members competing in the 2022 Rolex Sydney Hobart was Sean Langman and his son Peter. Sean steered his Reichel Pugh 69 Moneypenny to victory in IRC Division 0, while his 9-metre Ranger Maluka was in Peter's safe hands. The smallest and oldest boat in the fleet, turning 90 this year, took out Division 5 honours.
We just wanted to get here pretty much, so to come away with sort of division win, yeah, it's massive. It's way more than we were sort of expecting, and I think everyone on board is pretty stoked, to be honest.
The legend of the Rolex Sydney Hobart is heightened by the characters of the race. Tony Ellis has competed in more Hobarts than any other sailor, taking on his 54th this year aboard David Goats's Reichel Pugh 63 No Limit.
Oh, it was different to all the others. There's never a similar one, and no two are the same, and this one had a nice finish to remember.
Well, the question everyone wants to know, you're back for 55?
Well, Kerry told me the other day, she said that'd be a nice round number. I'm still thinking about it.
It was another memorable race for Ed Saltis and crew on his Sydney 36 Midnight Rambler. The Tasmanian favourite took out IRC Division 4 honours and was also the best amateur entrant, winning the Corinthian IRC division. A fitting way to celebrate Sydney Hobart number 40 for Saltis and a 25th for crew member Michael Bensick.
Oh, look, it was a tough race. Even though downhill, it was hard downwind stuff. A very confused sea. On the second night, the 27th was a very confused sea. All the big guys are pretty much close to in by then, but we were in Bass Strait, and yeah, it was hard going. Every yard was a hard yard to gain. High speeds, a lot of potential wipeouts, some wipeouts, bit of damage, but yeah, we pushed it very hard.
Adrian Carlin is the most capped female sailor in race history and took on her 30th race aboard Sunrise. Another special chapter for the world-class navigator.
You know, there's so many girls now. There's girls that have got owning their own boats now. You know, we were, a lot of our crew were girls, and that's the good thing about this race. There's such a diversity of people and ages and generations, you know. I mean, I was on a crew with all the young ones, so I caught up on my Gen Z speak.
The 2022 Rolex Sydney Hobart was a farewell for one of the race's great personalities. Shane Kearns bows out after 18 Hobarts due to health reasons and parts ways with the popular SNS 34 White Bay 6 Azuro.
I know I'm going to miss it every year, and but I'll be following it and all the people, and hopefully someone buys the boat, and like a few other owners that have sold boats, then it goes on to win. So, you know, because the boat is great, and you got the right people, and you just need that little weather window just to help you out.
A lineup of 5 Sydney 38s ensured a one design division for the first time since 2019, as Kim Jaggar's Sankont took out divisional honours. Second was Hasta La Vista, the Grimes family's boat, co-skippered by twins Jess and Tom Grimes, graduates of the Cruising Yacht Club of Australia's Youth Sailing Academy. This was Tom's second Hobart and Jess's first. The Performance Handicap Division, PHS, featured 18 boats, including some of the more comfortable rides to Hobart. This was a first Rolex Sydney Hobart for Wayne Seaward's Beneteau Oceanus 473 Cyan Moon. It was an eventful journey for Seaward and the crew he assembled earlier this year, but they toasted a PHS win in Hobart.
That's an amazing result. I've been dreaming of this since I was 11 years old. That's 61 years. Sydney to Hobart used to be on TV every Christmas, and it's taken me this long to build a crew and get ready and go and do it.
Much better, actually, like way above expectations. We had a very, very good run. You have no idea, it's such a big feeling finishing first. It's just amazing, unbelievable. Everybody did such an amazing job. We have such a complementary crew, and spot on.
Richard Hudson's Pretty Woman took out Corinthian PHS honours. Resilience is perhaps one of the most important traits for competitors in the Rolex Sydney Hobart yacht race. The two-handed pair of Kathy Veal and Bridget Canham most certainly fit that mould. Veal and Canham co-skippered the Currawong 30, Currawong, one of the smallest boats in the fleet at just 9.1 metres. With Bass Strait looking treacherous and fatigue setting in after a couple of hard days at sea, they pulled into Eton to get some rest before continuing the race in more benign conditions. Currawong was the last boat to finish the 2022 Rolex Sydney Hobart, fittingly crossing the finishing line just before New Year's Day, more than 24 hours after the second last boat, Gunrunner.
Really, I think it was me that made that decision. Bridget was really keen to carry on and ready to. I knew that I wasn't. I was extremely tired because we had two very difficult days of basically you're flying this kite on the boat single-handed, and we carried the kite for 21 hours. And there was also a pretty severe weather forecast for that night. We were really sorry to miss the competition with Gunrunner and Maluka, particularly.
And doesn't that say it all? Courage, determination and skill, no matter what's thrown your way. And how good is it to have spectators back here in the Rolex Race Village in Hobart and also at the CYCA in Sydney. Fair to say this 2022 Rolex Sydney Hobart has had it all. It's been a classic Hobart race in every sense. A multi-million-dollar 100-footer first across the line, and a tiny 30-footer on a shoestring budget with a co-skipper who's a 70-year-old pensioner. It's a timely reminder of the legacy of this great race, which now spans 77 years, and why it endures so powerfully and strongly.
I can't express how much the support means to myself and my crew. We have a special group of supporters, many of whom have been in Hobart for the last few days, and these are our close families. Knowing we have you at our sides all the time cannot be underestimated in a successful campaign. When we're out in the Bass Strait, in the darkest nights, high waves, thundering wind, freezing cold and wet, we know we have people who support us in this crazy sport and support our involvement and dedication to yacht racing. Again, I am so totally happy I have the Tattersall in our hands, the Rolex timepiece on my wrist, and the achievement, one of the highest achievement, the joy of the highest achievement in yachting in my heart. Thank you.
The 2022 Rolex Sydney Hobart Yacht Race is proudly supported by Rolex, the Royal Yacht Club of Tasmania, Transport New South Wales, Tourism Tasmania, Events Tasmania, Tasports, City of Hobart, the Tasman, Hobart, Devil's Corner, CUB, The Winning Group, Sail Media, and Hype TV. The Cruising Yacht Club of Australia would like to thank all sponsors of the 2022 Rolex Sydney Hobart Yacht Race.